Ever since my cousin moved into our house, a series of strange things started happening. My parents, who used to dote on me, began finding fault with everything I did, often scolding or hitting me. My elder brother, who once cherished me, also started treating me with utter disdain. My once deeply devoted fiancé looked at me with disgust and contempt, saying, "Your cousin is 1,000 times better than you. I'm so hopelessly in love with your cousin that I want to marry her." I couldn't bear such a shock and broke down in tears. Abandoned by everyone, I was wandering the streets in despair when an out-of-control dump truck crashed into me head-on. In the blink of an eye, I was reborn, returning to the day my cousin first came to live with us. My joy was tinged with worry. The joy came from the heavens giving me a chance at rebirth. The worry was that I still couldn't understand why my family and fiancé had suddenly changed their attitudes toward me. How can I possibly reverse the tragic ending that befell me in my previous life? Just as I was distressed, I noticed my parents and eldest brother looking at my cousin with strange eyes, as if they couldn't wait to skin her alive and stew her in a pot. Oh, so my whole family has been reborn. Then it's all good. This round is a sure win. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Just as I was immersed in the joy and excitement of rebirth, my cousin Emma showed up at the door, weighing 180 pounds and standing only 5 feet tall. She was practically indistinguishable from a water vat. Most crucially, Emma was also gluttonous yet lazy, narrow-minded, domineering, and unreasonable. This was also what left me deeply resentful in my past life. I couldn't comprehend why my family doted on her so much, nor why my fiancé would abandon me for her. The moment I saw her at my doorstep, the joy and excitement in my heart instantly turned into tension and worry. I fear the tragic experiences from my past life will happen to me again, and to this day, I still don't know what methods Emma used to bewitch my family and fiancé, leaving me powerless to stop it even if I wanted to. Just as I was anxiously worrying, Emma dragged her suitcase into the house and said to my parents with a smile, "Uncle, Aunt, my parents have gone to work out of town again. They weren't comfortable leaving me home alone, so I'll have to stay with you for a while." Our family doesn't have a very good relationship with my eldest aunt's family, mainly because my aunt's family used to look down on ours back when we were relatively poor. My aunt and uncle even openly said that having poor relatives like us was a disgrace. Later, after I was born, my family's fortune began to turn around. Our family business grew bigger and bigger, and within less than 10 years, we became the newly wealthy family in the area. From that time on, my aunt's family started actively cozying up to ours to curry favor. My mom detests the snobbish attitude of my aunt's family, but my dad always believes that he and his elder sister share an unbreakable bond of blood ties, so he often secretly helps her family behind my mom's back. However, my dad's generosity didn't earn gratitude from my aunt's family. Instead, it made them resentful. My aunt's family thinks that since we're well off, we should give them more money to support them. Later, my mom pointed at my aunt and her family of 3 and scolded them harshly, which finally made them tone down their behavior. This time, Emma suddenly wanted to come stay at my house for a while, and my mom initially disagreed. My dad pleaded desperately and said helplessly, "Your elder sister and brother-in-law insist on going to the south to work and make big money, and they won't be back for a while. Emma doesn't know how to cook or do housework, and if she's left alone at home, your elder sister and brother-in-law won't feel at ease. Let her stay with us for a while. After all, I'm her uncle and can't just ignore her." Mom didn't want to see Dad in a difficult position either, so she reluctantly agreed in the end. As a result, Emma hadn't been living in our house for long before strange things started happening. Suddenly, everyone in the family doted on her immensely, while treating me with nothing but disdain and disgust. Even my fiancé expressed Emma deep affection for her, abandoning me for her sake. I can't figure out why this is happening. My family and fiancé seem to be under some kind of spell. Just thinking about the tragic events that befell me in my past life sends shivers down my spine. As I was recalling the events of my past life, Emma gave me a fake smile and handed me a colorful braided bracelet, saying, "Flora, I made this bracelet myself. I heard you and Byron are getting married soon. I don't have much money to buy you an expensive gift, so please accept this as a token of my feelings. May you be of one heart forever." Just like this bracelet, forever intertwined and inseparable. In the previous life, Emma pretended to be gentle and kind during her first few days in my home. After living in my house for a while, my parents' attitude towards me changed drastically. Emma could even scold or hit me in public, and my parents would just watch coldly, showing no intention of standing up for me. I don't know where exactly the problem lies. Even if I expose Emma's hypocritical side now, my family wouldn't believe me. I forced a smile and said, "Thank you, cousin." Just as I reached out to take the colorful braided bracelet, my elder brother stopped me. My elder brother gave Emma a meaningful look and said calmly, "Cousin, you should keep this bracelet for yourself. My younger sister hasn't been feeling well lately. We consulted a master who said she shouldn't wear any jewelry." As my eldest brother finished speaking, my parents also nodded and said, "That's right. Flora isn't suited to wear jewelry. Emma, we appreciate your kindness, but you should keep this bracelet for yourself." I was stunned, staring blankly at my parents and eldest brother. When did my family ever take me to see a master? Why can't I wear jewelry? My parents' and eldest brother's reaction is a bit different from how it was in my previous life. At that moment, my eldest brother leaned in and whispered in my ear, "There's something off about our cousin. Never accept any gifts from her." My eldest brother's words instantly sent a shiver through my heart. I stared at my eldest brother in disbelief, feeling both shock and an overwhelming surge of excitement and joy. The strange gazes that my eldest brother and parents cast upon Emma, coupled with their fury that seemed ready to skin Emma alive, further confirmed my suspicions. Just like me, they had also been reborn. This is truly wonderful. With our whole family working together, I don't believe Emma can stir up any trouble. This round is in the bag. Just as I was getting excited, Emma pretended to be aggrieved and said, "This is a bracelet I painstakingly made. It's not much of a piece of jewelry, just a token of my feelings." "Uncle, do you think this bracelet is too cheap and unworthy of Flora?" The more she insisted like this, the more convinced I became that there was something suspicious about this colorful bracelet in her hand. "I absolutely won't accept it." Emma's eyes flashed with a trace of malice as she hypocritically pulled out a few more items from her suitcase. "Auntie, this floral paste was made from wildflowers I picked from the hills behind our village. It's incredibly nourishing for the skin, far better than those chemical-laden cosmetics. I made it especially for you." "Uncle, I know you enjoy collectibles, so I carved this small figurine from the old locust tree in our village for you to appreciate." "Cousin, this manekiniko was brought to me by my parents when they worked in the south last year. It's said to have been blessed by a master. May it bring prosperity to your career." In the previous life, although my family didn't like Emma, they didn't embarrass her and accepted the gifts she gave. Now that we know there's something wrong with the gifts she gave us, naturally no one reached out to accept them. Faced with our coldness, Emma's expression turned somewhat unpleasant. Mom looked at Emma with disgust and said coldly, "All right, we appreciate your kindness, but you can keep those things for yourself. Our family doesn't lack such gifts. The room is ready for you. But let me be clear up front. You can stay temporarily, but you must follow the rules. If you dare bring your bad temper and rotten attitude into my home, don't blame me for kicking you out without mercy." Emma's face darkened as she deliberately gave my dad a pitiful glance. In the past, my dad might have spoken up for her, but now he just said calmly to Emma, "Your aunt is right. Since you're living under someone else's roof, it's only proper to follow the rules. It's all for your own good." Emma's eyes burned with anger and resentment, but in the end, she held it in. For the rest of the day, our family deliberately found fault and scolded Emma, treating her like a maid. Surprisingly, she endured it all. That night, after Emma went back to her room, my eldest brother glanced at Emma's room and whispered, "She's really patient, not losing her temper even now." Mom snorted and said, "The more she endures, the greater her schemes must be." Dad said in a deep voice, "Remember, we must not accept any gifts from her." I couldn't help but say, "Let's just kick her out, so we don't have to be on guard all the time." My brother knocked me on the head and said in frustration, "Are you stupid? She's playing tricks right under our noses. But as long as we're careful, she won't succeed. Once we drive her away, who knows when we might fall into her trap. The top priority now is to figure out how she managed to curse our entire family." Mom, Dad, and eldest brother recalled how they were Emma's puppets after being cursed in their past life. and their expressions turned grim. That night, as I lay in bed, I felt much more relaxed. Our whole family was reborn, and we all became wary of Emma. Emma certainly wouldn't be able to cause much trouble anymore. The question now is, how did Emma come to understand that kind of dark magic that can control people's minds? Another thing is, in the previous life, my parents and the others were all under a spell. So why was I able to remain clear-headed the entire time? I want to talk to my fiancé Byron to see if he has also been reborn like our entire family. However, I called Byron several times, but he didn't answer. I wonder what he's busy with. I slept very soundly that night. In the early morning, when I got up and went to the dining room for breakfast, I was stunned by the scene before me. Dad held a small wooden carving in his hand, playing with it fondly, and praised Emma, saying, as expected of my most beloved niece, "I really like this gift from you, dear uncle." Mom was applying the floral clay mask brought by Emma to her face, beaming with joy as she said to Emma, "Emma is so clever and skillful. We should have Flora learn more from you in the future. She's lazy and gluttonous all day, with a terrible temper. As her elder cousin, you should teach her more from now on." Brother held the Manekiniko figurine as if it were some rare treasure, smiling at Emma and saying, "Cousin, from now on, this is your home. Do whatever you want and don't consider yourself an outsider. Flora is still young and ignorant. If she misbehaves, don't hesitate to scold or even spank her. No need to save face for her. What on earth is going on? Just yesterday, Mom, Dad, and my brother were all saying we must stay vigilant against Emma and absolutely must not accept any gifts from her. Yet, in just one night, how could they have changed like this? Especially when I appeared in the dining area. My parents and brother looked at me with expressions of disdain and disgust, scolding me one after another. "You slept until now before getting up. Are you a pig? Can't you learn from your cousin's diligence? From now on, you must get up before 5 a.m. to prepare breakfast every morning. Do you hear me? Lazy and gluttonous all day long. How could we have a daughter like you? I wish Emma were our daughter. Flora, what are you standing there dumbfounded for? Hurry up and come serve your cousin breakfast." Seeing my parents scold me harshly, Emma looked at me with a smug expression and said arrogantly, "Cousin, come eat now. From now on in this house, you better behave. If you make me angry, I can't guarantee what will happen to you." With that, she threw the breakfast on the ground, telling me to eat the food at her feet like a dog. Naturally, I refused. Even now, I still can't comprehend what exactly happened. Mom, Dad, and brother had clearly been on guard against her. So how could they have reverted to their past selves in just one night? I rushed Emma and roared, "What exactly did you do to my parents and brother?" Then, I anxiously turned to my parents and said, "Wake up. Don't be fooled by her." My parents looked at me with even more disgust and said, "What kind of behavior is this? Shouting in front of your cousin. It's all our fault for spoiling you. It's time to set some rules. From now on, you must listen to your cousin in everything, or else we won't want you as our daughter anymore." Before I could respond, my brother pinned me to the ground, forcing me to eat Emma's leftover food by her feet, while cursing angrily. "Cousin has given her orders. How dare you disobey? You're absolutely rebelling against heaven. If you ever dare to defy cousin's orders again, I'll break your legs." I struggled desperately, but it was useless. Frustrated to tears, I was held down by my brother's hand as I ate the food off the ground. Emma sneered at me and said, "Flora, how does it feel to be trampled underfoot? You deserve all of this. Ever since you were born, your family gradually became wealthy. Your family members said it was all thanks to the fortune you brought, making many people call you the naturally blessed girl. The village gossips always compared me to you, claiming there was a world of difference between us and belittling me as worthless. Even my parents found fault with me at every turn. I refused to accept this. Do you have any idea how much I envy and resent you? I will destroy you, take everything from you, and make everyone despise you. Don't worry, I won't kill you. I'll make you watch as your loved ones abandon you, letting you experience the bitterness of being scorned and loathed." I don't know Emma why she harbors such intense hatred and jealousy toward me. Is it simply because I outperform her? Yet my parents and brother showed no reaction whatsoever to Emma's words to me at that moment. They continued to shower Emma with praise, completely ignoring my heartbroken and desperate cries. Immediately after, Emma had my brother bring a dog leash, fastened it around my neck, and tied me up at home. Then, Emma snatched my phone and called my closest friends to come over. Before long, when my girlfriends walked through the door and saw me bound by the dog leash, they were all stunned. I cried out anxiously, "Run! Call the police!" Before they could react, Emma smiled and took out a few colorful rope bracelets, forcefully stuffing them into their hands. Instantly, the looks in my close friends' eyes changed when they turned to me. They glared at me with anger and contempt, hurling insults one after another. "Flora, your cousin treats you so well. How could you have the nerve to call the police? Your lazy and gluttonous nature, along with your unreasonable temper, should have been corrected long ago. Your cousin only has your best interests at heart, taking kindness for ill intent. Flora, you really don't know what's good for you." Seeing them indignantly stand up for Emma, I felt utterly hopeless. That's how it was in my previous life. I thought I could reverse that tragic fate, but now it seems I was too naive. At that moment, the sound of police sirens came from outside the house. Emma frowned slightly and walked toward the door. Before long, Emma walked in smiling, accompanied by several police officers. At the same time, Emma was holding a man's arm, giving me a smug, cold smile with an intimate demeanor. That man was none other than my fiancé, Byron. After entering my home, the police officers all showed looks of disgust and disdain upon seeing me bound by a dog leash. Then, one of the police officers said apologetically to Emma, "Someone reported hearing cries from your house, so we came to check. It's nothing. A disgusting woman like that deserves a good lesson." The police ignored my desperate cries for help and simply turned away and left. Emma walked up to me, slapped me hard across the face, and sneered, "Go ahead and cry. The louder you cry, the better. Let's see who can save you." My fiancé Byron gave me a cold glance and said to Emma, "Darling, why dirty your hands by personally teaching a lesson to such a vile and disgusting woman? I'll teach her a proper lesson for you later. Today is a wonderful day. The moment I saw you, I fell hopelessly in love. Let's go celebrate at a restaurant and finalize our wedding plans soon. I can't wait to make you my wife." Emma burst into laughter and mocked me, saying, "See, this is the man you deeply love. Now, he belongs to me too." No one paid attention to my desperate cries. Emma took Byron's arm and left the house with my parents and others. Overwhelmed with grief and anger, I had lost all hope in my heart. As night fell, the front door suddenly swung open. Immediately after, I saw Byron charging towards me at a rapid pace. I thought he would, just like in the previous life, be bewitched by Emma into punching and kicking me, hurting me to win Emma's favor. However, Byron's next move left me stunned. He helped untie the dog leash from my body, carefully cradled me in his arms, and said with a heartbroken expression, "Flora, I'm sorry. Hurting your feelings before was all an act to deceive Emma. That malicious woman. Please don't blame me." Coming to my senses, I exclaimed excitedly, "You weren't bewitched by her." Byron shook his head, his face filled with hatred as he gritted his teeth and said, "I've been guarding against that vile woman all along." As expected, Byron was also reborn. However, how did he resist Emma's bewitching dark magic? My parents and brother were also wary of Emma, yet they still fell victim. "Byron, how did you manage to avoid Emma's bewitchment this time?" Byron drove me rapidly toward a certain location, explaining along the way. After being reborn, the first thing I did was to find a way to defend against Emma's sinister dark magic. It was only because of this that I was able to resist Emma's bewitching sorcery. After saying this, Byron pulled open his clothes, revealing the garment underneath. My pupils contracted slightly as I exclaimed in surprise, "Burial garments." Byron nodded and said, "That's right. The kind of burial garments sold in coffin shops. This burial garment is adorned with rooster comb blood and black dog blood, enabling it to withstand Emma's bewitching dark arts for a short period. It's precisely for this burial garment that I waited until today to find you. Otherwise, I would have come for you yesterday when Emma entered your house." With a face full of confusion, I asked, "How did you know this method could resist Emma's sinister dark arts?" Byron said, "You once told me that when you were born, your mother had a difficult labor, and both of you almost lost your lives. Later, a mysterious traveler passed by your home and saved both you and your mother." Hearing Byron say this, my expression turned somewhat peculiar. I heard my parents talk about that perilous night years ago. I was a premature baby, born before the expected due date. At that time, the family was completely unprepared. My father anxiously wanted to send my mother to the hospital for a cesarean section, but she couldn't hold on any longer. Just as my father was in agony and despair, a dirty old beggar appeared. He gently patted my mother's belly, and she immediately felt much better, relieved from the excruciating pain. Then, the old beggar sighed softly and said, "The heaven's favored daughter is born, destined for boundless prosperity, so it's only fitting she faces some minor trials. Meeting today, let's consider it as forming a virtuous connection." The old beggar bit his fingertip and drew an intricate blood rune on my mother's belly. Shortly after, I was smoothly delivered into this world. The old beggar said I was destined for wealth and honor. And just as he predicted, from the day I was born, my family's fortunes began to improve day by day. Later, I heard from my parents that the old beggar had opened a funeral clothing shop on the funeral services street in the east of the city. Whenever their friends had a bereavement, my parents would strongly recommend going to the old beggar's funeral clothing shop. Back then, when my parents told me about this, I always thought it was quite mysterious and would share the story as a joke with Byron. Unexpectedly, Byron actually found that old beggar and discovered a way to deal with Emma's eerie and sinister sorcery. Byron gritted his teeth and said angrily, "Emma is simply a beast. Flora, you don't know yet. She killed her own parents. And the bewitched colored rope bracelets and other items were all made from her parents' ashes." Byron's words made me shiver involuntarily. Emma has truly gone mad. While Byron and I were rushing to the funeral street, Byron's phone kept ringing. All calls from Emma. I pressed the answer button. Emma's venomous, shrill voice erupted from the other end of the line. "Byron, you damn bastard. Where have you taken that bitch Flora?" Byron said through gritted teeth. "You don't need to know. You vicious woman, using dark magic to harm others and even killing your own parents. You'll get your retribution sooner or later." On the other end of the phone, Emma laughed maniacally and said in a sinister tone, "Byron, don't think you and Flora can escape. I'll find you. Flora, you're listening, aren't you? I'll make you deeply understand what despair truly means." Before we could respond, Emma abruptly hung up the phone. Shortly after hanging up, Byron began experiencing inexplicable itching all over his body. The unbearable itch drove Byron to scratch frantically, moaning in agony. His burial shroud was visibly tearing at an alarming rate, as if invisible insects were devouring the fabric, leaving his skin covered in swollen red patches that looked horrifying. Byron endured the itch and led me to the end of the funeral services street. Late at night, the street was deserted, with only the funeral clothing store at the end still lit. The owner seemed to know we were coming, as if waiting specifically for us. Just as my parents had told me before, the owner of the funeral clothing store was an unkempt old beggar. His clothes were tattered, his hair a bird's nest, and his eyebrows and beard nearly merged together, giving off a very slovenly impression. Byron dragged me into the funeral clothing store, pleading in agony, "Master, save me." After saying that, Byron collapsed to the ground, convulsing. The red swollen patches on his body had multiplied, making him look as if he had swollen up significantly. Without a word, the old beggar lifted the convulsing Byron, gave me a deep look, sighed softly, and said to me, "Follow me." Carrying Byron, he walked toward the backyard of the funeral clothing store, and I quickly followed. Watching the old beggar's retreating figure, I felt puzzled in my heart. For some reason, this old beggar gave me a strangely familiar feeling. Even though it was our first meeting, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd seen him somewhere before. In the backyard of the funeral clothing shop, the old beggar pointed at the prepared tattered red coffin and said to me, "Lie inside it, and no matter what you hear or see, don't leave that coffin." With that, the old beggar took out a few silver needles and inserted them into Byron's body. Byron's body emitted faint black smoke as the swollen red marks quickly disappeared. The extreme itching and pain he had been suffering seemed to be greatly alleviated, and he fell into a deep slumber, feeling slightly relieved. I approached the tattered red coffin. When I saw the scene inside, my pupils instantly contracted. Inside this dilapidated red coffin lay a paper effigy. The paper effigy had my name and birth date written on it in bright red brushstrokes. My heart trembled slightly as I asked, "What is this?" The old beggar glanced toward the back door of the funeral clothing shop, frowned slightly, and said to me gravely without turning his head, "That's a paper effigy meant to take your place in death. Since the birth of the heavens' favored maiden, she is bound to incur heaven's envy, facing inevitable 3 calamities and 6 tribulations. Now, you only have to survive tonight's calamity. Hurry inside. Those who want to steal your prosperous fate are almost here." The old beggar's words were cryptic, and I couldn't quite understand them. I'm not the type to hesitate either, so I obediently climbed into the tattered red coffin, squeezing in next to that so-called substitute paper effigy. To my surprise, after I entered the tattered crimson coffin, the old beggar immediately sealed the lid shut. Inside the dilapidated coffin, I tried to push open the lid, but couldn't move the heavy cover even an inch. I couldn't help but feel a pang of panic. Just then, pounding sounds came from outside the funeral clothing shop, accompanied by Emma's shrill curses. How did she find this place so quickly? My heart was practically in my throat, and I had no idea if the old beggar could subdue Emma. Through the cracks in the broken coffin, I saw the old beggar heading toward the back door of the funeral clothing shop. Seeing the old beggar's back again, I felt even more that he was familiar. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration struck me, and I recalled the scene from my previous life's final moments. In my past life, I was walking down the street in despair when I was hit by an out-of-control dump truck. Before dying, I saw the face of the driver who caused the accident. Yes, that's right. The hit-and-run driver who killed me in my past life is this old beggar. At this moment, every hair on my body stood on end, as if I'd been plunged into an ice cellar. I shouted desperately, "Byron!" But at this moment, Byron had just been treated by the old beggar and was sleeping soundly, completely unresponsive. I kicked frantically at the shabby coffin, but despite its appearance, it was actually quite sturdy. Meanwhile, I heard furious roars and cries of pain coming from the funeral clothing shop, as if the old beggar was fighting with many people. In less than a minute, Emma entered the courtyard through the back door of the funeral clothing shop. Meanwhile, the funeral clothing shop fell silent. Emma had bloodshot eyes and a ferocious expression, as if she had lost her mind. Without even glancing at the unconscious Byron beside her, she walked straight to the dilapidated coffin, peering through its cracks to lock eyes with mine. Her crimson eyes flickered with a deranged, venomous glare as she sneered, "Flora, keep running if you dare. I told you, there's no escape. Accept your fate. What nonsense about being heaven's chosen. You're destined to be despised by all." As her words fell, she suddenly struck the heavy coffin lid with her palm. The coffin lid, which I couldn't budge an inch with all my strength, seemed weightless under her hand as she effortlessly sent it flying. She looked down at me lying in the coffin, her distorted, bloated face terrifyingly grotesque, while she reached into the coffin with a sinister grin. I broke down, though tears streamed down my face from fear. I refused to surrender without a fight. Even if I were to die, I'd die with dignity. Just as I was about to fight desperately, I was stunned to find that Emma's hand reaching into the coffin wasn't grabbing me, but the paper effigy beside me. Emma, looking utterly deranged, yanked the paper effigy out of the coffin and laughed maniacally, saying, "Flora, have you lost your mind from fright? Why aren't you wailing and begging anymore?" She pinched the paper doll's neck, shaking it wildly with maniacal laughter. Such a scene made my heart tremble uncontrollably. Emma has gone mad. Could she no longer tell the difference between me and a paper effigy? At that very moment, an unexpected change occurred. Emma's paper effigy suddenly exploded, and the bamboo slivers inside it pierced straight into Emma's limbs and torso. Blood splattered as Emma let out an agonized scream, instinctively trying to fling away the remnants of the paper effigy, but it clung to Emma like a persistent parasite. In the end, Emma was engulfed and wrapped by the paper figure with a mournful wail. In just a few breaths' time, Emma vanished without a trace, replaced by a plump, motionless paper figure standing dumbly in her place. I witnessed this bizarre scene with my own eyes, my worldview severely shaken, before my vision darkened and I fainted outright. By the time I woke up, I was already lying in my bed at home. Mom, Dad, brother, Byron and all my close friends were in the room, visibly relieved when they saw me wake up. "Flora, you're finally awake. You scared us to death. You're not even overweight. Why on earth were you dieting to lose weight? Don't you ever do that again." I stared blankly at my parents and the others, tears uncontrollably welling up in my eyes as I saw they had returned to normal. Seeing me crying in distress, my parents grew anxious again, hurriedly asking if I was feeling unwell somewhere and if we should go to the hospital for a checkup. I quickly waved my hands and asked, "How is Emma? Where is that old beggar? Was it him who helped you all return to normal?" Hearing my words, everyone was taken aback. Byron touched my forehead and said worriedly to my parents, "Uncle and Aunt, please take Flora to the hospital for a checkup." I anxiously pushed away Byron's hand and said, "I'm not sick. I just want to know how Emma is doing." "Where is that old beggar now?" With a strange expression, the elder brother said, "Little sister, why are you so concerned about Emma, that vicious and ungrateful wretch? She died some time ago, and the grass on her grave must be 3 feet high by now." I was stunned and blurted out, "How is that possible?" Emma had previously used bewitching sorcery to deceive our parents and others, making everyone despise and loathe me. How could she have died long ago? Dad's face darkened as he sighed and said, "Emma has indeed been dead for a long time. She couldn't bear the oppressive education from your aunt and uncle, nor the constant comparisons the villagers made between you and her. In the end, she developed schizophrenia and killed your aunt and uncle. Before the police could arrest her, she committed suicide at home. In her final moments, she even set her own house on fire. I personally arranged the funeral for all 3 of them." Mom said worriedly, "Sweetheart, have you been dieting to lose weight to the point that it's affecting your mental health? You keep muttering about some old beggar. What's that all about?" The corner of my mouth twitched as I shakily gave a brief account of the old beggar incident. Mom rolled her eyes at me and said irritably, "When did we ever tell you such a far-fetched story? When I gave birth to you, it was much smoother than with your elder brother. There was no old beggar coming to help me. You there, cut down on those supernatural horror movies, will you? Always letting your imagination run wild." I was utterly bewildered. Could my previous experiences really have been just a dream? To unravel the knot in my heart, I had Byron take me to the funeral services street, staring at the shabby shop at the end of the street and the large demolition character painted beside it. My face flickered between shades of unease. Byron said to me helplessly, "This place was already scheduled for demolition last year, and the shops have long ceased to be rented out." Before he could finish speaking, I urgently said, "Take me to see Aunt and their graves." Byron looked at me with concern, and finally, at my strong insistence, he drove me to the burial site of my aunt's family. After arriving here, Byron let out a puzzled sound and said, "Didn't your family already have no relatives left? How could there still be people worshipping your aunt's family?" In front of the graves of the aunt's family of 3, there were traces of burned joss paper. Most crucially, a tattered and half-burned paper effigy of a plump figure knelt there, as if repenting before the tombs of the aunt and uncle. When I saw that charred plump paper effigy, my heart trembled. Seeing her at my door, the joy and excitement in my heart instantly turned into nervousness and worry. It's my parents and others' memories that have been altered. Who has such an ability? The figure of the old beggar immediately surfaced in my mind. As I stood there lost in thought, an elderly cemetery caretaker approached and called out to us in a loud voice, "It's windy today. Try not to burn paper money when paying respects at the graves. It could easily start a mountain fire." When I saw the old caretaker, I nearly gasped aloud. It was the old beggar. After hesitating for a moment, I walked over. Just as I was about to speak, the old caretaker gave me a faint smile. "The 3 calamities and 6 tribulations have passed, and the remaining years shall be filled with untold prosperity. In your past life, it was indeed me who hit you with the car, mainly to help you overcome your destined calamity. You can treat it as a dream spanning 2 lifetimes. Just forget it. Our karmic bond has been resolved. If fate allows, we shall meet again." I took a deep breath, bowed to him, and said gratefully, "Thank you." My eyes turned slightly red as I felt overwhelmed with emotion. Byron thought the old gravekeeper had said something harsh to make me cry, and he rolled up his sleeves, ready to confront the old man. I dragged him away from there. On the way back, I said to Byron, "Do you believe there exists a destined noblewoman in this world?" Byron nodded vigorously and said to me matter-of-factually, "Of course I believe it. To me, you've always been my destined noble lady. Why even ask such a question?" I smiled, no longer tangled in my thoughts, gazing at the scenery outside the car window. I felt an unprecedented sense of ease in my heart. Whether I am the destined noble lady or not, I will live each day of the future earnestly and joyfully, never wasting this lifetime.